Now let's talk about a governor in Minnesota who ain't running. Tim Walz, that name rings a bell. Wasn't he at one point a real high official in the Democratic Party, or at least could have been the VP, but now is going to abandon his quest for the governorship in Minnesota due to a growing scandal. Shock that there's a politician involved in a scandal. John, I'll let you take first whack at this. The frightening part about this, well, Donald Trump is already saying he's going to cut funds to Minnesota. They're going to make an example of Walz, showing how come this shows that the Democrats are really the biggest cultural thieves and the biggest criminals in office, et cetera, so on. That aside, the real issue. Yes.
Well, the real issue for me is I'll be pretty quick on this one. I was not and have not been impressed at all with Governor Walz, his handling of some of the unrest, protests, and things in Minnesota. I thought he was a very weak vice presidential candidate. I thought he hurt Kamala Harris more than he helped her by far. This is one less voice in what will look to be what we're looking at as probably a very crowded Democratic presidential field. I don't think he can run for president. You could be looking down the road at an agriculture secretary, Walz, maybe at this point. I think this was probably the right move for the governor. And one less voice in the primary will give the actual favorites more time to make their case, more airtime at the debates. So the Democrats, behind closed doors, I think, probably breathing a sigh of relief, but they need this scandal to go away. It can't just stop here. This can't go on toward the midterms. They've got to come up with a solution and figure out maybe some indictments and put, as they say, nip this one in the bud.
Well, and that would, I think part of nipping it in the bud is him resigning. So he said on today that he's abandoning his bid for re-election to a third term. Senator Amy Klobuchar, a fellow Democrat, is seeking the office. And this is all because of the widening scandal, as I pointed out, over fraud in social services that Walz admitted persuaded him to drop out of the race. He's been criticized for his oversight of the program and his failure to prevent widespread fraud. Mark, do you see it as a growing problem for the Democrats, or one that can be nipped in the bud?
I'm surprised it became the problem it did. For one, this has been a pre-existing problem in Minnesota. I'm sure lots of other places too, but this is not a new problem in Minnesota. And it's been a problem in the Somalian community in particular, which is a bunch of bad eggs giving a bad name to the rest of the community, who I'm sure are all law-abiding, people just going about their daily lives like everybody else. I was not impressed, have not been impressed, how Walz and the Democrats in Minnesota have been handling this growing scandal. They've been allowing MAGA to just create a much bigger narrative scandal than what it is, a narrative. They've been controlling the narrative, and it kind of shows the weakness of how Walz was and would not have worked out very well if he had been vice president with Kamala Harris as president.
Well, hell, he couldn't even beat J.D. Vance in a debate. That's how weak he was.